The awakening. The piercing alarm shattered the eerie silence of the Arctic bunker as the stasis pods hissed open, releasing a cloud of frost. Vega's electric blue eyes widened in astonishment as he scanned the ancient Earth records displayed on the holoscreen before him. The sight was both exhilarating and overwhelming. They had awakened after 500,000 years of deep slumber, and the world they knew had changed beyond recognition. Zor, his colleague, scoffed as he glanced up from his own display. This Arctic bunker is nothing like the records from that era. The timing is too perfect, right before the Council erased human civilization. It has to be humanity's final gambit. Vega crossed his arms, his expression serious. Those Council-written histories paint humans as primitives, nothing more than hapless apes with bows and spears. But if you look closely, there are inconsistencies everywhere. The Council claimed humans were inferior, yet they committed enormous resources to wiping them out. It doesn't add up. Zor nodded slowly, his curiosity piqued. It does seem illogical if they were so inferior. Why go to such lengths? Exactly, Vega said, his voice filled with conviction. There's more to this story. I believe the Council buried the truth about humanity, rewriting history to cover their tracks. And this bunker might be the key to unraveling what really happened. The weight of their discovery hung heavily between them. If the Council's records were false, and the bunker held humanity's last survivors, they needed to act quickly. Failure was not an option. Hours later, in their private research chamber, Vega pored over a cryptic data fragment while Zor looked on, anticipation evident in his eyes. "You've got to see this," Vega muttered, enlarging a file on his holoscreen. "It's a top-secret Council mission to the Arctic, a century after the invasion. Their objective was to secure an underground human facility." Zor leaned in, studying the sparse details. Interesting, but the Council hunted for human holdouts routinely. What's special about this one? Vega swiped to a new screen. The mission's outcome was never logged. All other raids were meticulously documented, but this file was ultra-classified. Someone high up scrubbed every detail. They're hiding something big. Zor's brow furrowed as he processed the implications. Why would they bury this mission in particular? "What's your theory?" "I can't be certain," Vega admitted, "but look at the timeline. Right after the Arctic expedition, the Council accelerated Project Starfall, clearing out the remaining humans at triple speed. They must have found something in that bunker that spooked them." The researchers sat in heavy silence, the gravity of their discovery sinking in. They were no longer just pursuing an academic curiosity. The fate of Earth's last survivors and the truth about humanity's downfall rested in their hands. Failure was not an option. "We have to be smart and careful," Vega said, his resolve hardening. "If the Council buried this so deep, they won't be pleased if we dig it up." Zor's face reflected determination. "We're through the looking glass now. This is bigger than us. If we do this, we're putting everything on the line. Our careers, our safety, maybe even our lives." "I'm in," Zor said firmly. "No matter where this rabbit hole leads, let's blow this mystery wide open." Vega's expression mirrored Zor's resolve. "We chase this to the ends of the galaxy if we have to." Starting with that Dan bunker. The interior of the workshop was a chaotic jumble of salvaged tech and half-finished projects. In the center of the clutter rested a probe-shaped object on the workbench. Vega hunched over the battered device, fiddled with its innards. "This is one of the few surviving survey drones from the initial invasion," he explained. "The Council sent hundreds of these to map Earth's polar regions, but most were lost or destroyed." Zor eyed the ancient machine skeptically. "And you think this relic holds the key to the Arctic mystery? The tech is 500,000 years old." Vega flashed a confident grin. "Never tell me the odds. This drone's black box was recovered intact. With a little coaxing, we might just get lucky." He made a final adjustment, and the probe's core suddenly thrummed to life, bathing the workshop in an eerie blue glow. But the victory was fleeting. The holographic display above the drone crackled and flickered, resolving into an ominous warning. Data corruption detected. Memory banks compromised. Recovery attempt risks permanent data loss. Zor threw up his hands in frustration. Perfect. We finally get the blasted thing working. And now we can't even access the data without frying the system. Vega's expression darkened. Think about it. The Council went to a lot of trouble to bury the details of that Arctic mission. What if someone deliberately corrupted the data? Zor's eyes widened. You're right. They must have found something in the bunker, something so damaging they'd risk losing all the survey data just to keep it hidden. The implications were staggering. The Arctic bunker, humanity's last stand, held a secret that terrified the galaxy's most powerful races, a secret they'd kill to protect. Vega squared his shoulders, determination etched in his face. We've come too far to back down now. I'm going to try to recover the data. It's the only way we'll get to the truth. Zor nodded, his voice steady. Just be careful. We're in deep space here. Since when am I not? Vega quipped, though his tone was grim. He tapped a command into the console, and the probe's display surged with light. Streams of code cascaded down the screen, the workshop awash in stroding brilliance. The progress bar on the recovery program ticked agonizingly slowly. Just as the bar hit 99%, the door slammed open with a deafening bang. Vega and Zor jolted upright, turning to face the intruder. Dr. Zala stormed in, his face contorted in fury, flanked by two burly Barzan security officers. I knew it, Zala snarled, pointing accusingly at Vega and Zor. Unauthorized access to restricted files, misuse of archaeological artifacts. You've gone too far this time. Before Zor could respond, Zala continued, I've already reported you to the authorities. Consider yourselves suspended, effective immediately, pending a full disciplinary hearing. The guards moved forward, reaching for Vega and Zor. In a flash of desperation, Vega lunged for the drone, his fingers closing around the data chip. He held it aloft, his voice urgent. Wait, you don't understand. This chip contains information the Council buried 500,000 years ago. We have to. Zala cut him off with a derisive snort. Enough of your crackpot conspiracy theories. The Council's dealings with the humans are ancient history. They were a dangerous, uncivilized species that needed to be controlled for the good of the galaxy. That's all there is to it. He extended his hand, his expression brooking no argument. Hand over that data chip and come quietly. Zor darted through the labyrinthine corridors of the research facility, the data chip clutched tightly in his hand. The pounding of the security guards' boots echoed behind him, their shouts reverberating off the metallic walls. His heart raced, each beat a reminder of the stakes. He needed to reach the safe house where Vega was waiting, but the path was treacherous. Slipping into a side corridor, Zor took a moment to catch his breath. He tapped into a small comm device, whispering urgently, Vega, I've got the chip. They're on my tail. Where are you? Just outside the main complex, Vega's voice crackled through the comm. We need to move fast. I've arranged for a ship to be prepped. Meet me at the coordinates I sent. Zor's mind raced as he navigated the twists and turns of the facility. The map Vega had sent appeared on his wrist display, guiding him to a hidden exit. He glanced back to see the shadows of the security officers flickering in the dim light. They were getting closer. As Zor reached the hidden exit, he saw Vega waiting by a sleek, black ship with an angular design that reflected the harsh lights of the facility. The ship was a marvel of engineering, streamlined and menacing. Vega was already in motion, his hands flying over the controls of the boarding ramp. Get in, Vega shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of the ship's engines. Zor sprinted up the ramp, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The ramp retracted, sealing them inside. The ship's engines roared to life, and it began to lift off, the ground beneath them vanishing as they ascended into the night sky. Vega slid into the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing over the controls. "We're clear of the facility, but we need to make sure we're not tracked. I'm setting a course for the outer system to lay low for a while." As the ship streaked away from the planet, Zor took a moment to examine the data chip. Its surface was covered in intricate symbols, a testament to the advanced technology it held. He had to trust Vega's skills to decode it, but the urgency of their situation left little room for error. "You think Zala will catch up to us?" Zor asked, his voice tinged with concern. "Possibly," Vega replied, his eyes focused on the controls. "But we have a head start. And with the encryption we've put in place, they'll have a hard time tracing us." The ship's engines hummed steadily as they entered the cold vacuum of space. Vega adjusted the ship's course, steering them towards a remote space station where they could regroup and analyze the data in safety. Hours later, in the cramped but secure confines of the ship's makeshift lab, Vega worked feverishly to decrypt the data chip. Zor paced back and forth, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on his shoulders. "This better be worth it," Zor muttered, his eyes darting to the various screens and equipment scattered around the lab. "If this data holds the key to humanity's survival, we need to unlock it fast." Vega's face was illuminated by the glow of the screens as he carefully manipulated the data streams. "It's taking longer than I hoped, but I'm making progress. This chip is heavily encrypted, but it contains vital information about the bunker's location and what was discovered there." Zor leaned in, trying to glimpse the data on the screen. "Anything interesting so far?" Vega nodded, his brow furrowing in concentration. "Yes, there are references to advanced technology and hidden compartments within the bunker. It looks like the Council found something they didn't want anyone to know about, and they took extreme measures to keep it hidden." The lab fell into a tense silence as the minutes ticked by. Vega's fingers flew over the keyboard, and the data streams began to coalesce into coherent patterns. Zor could feel the anticipation building, each second bringing them closer to uncovering the truth. Finally, with a triumphant beep, Vega straightened. "I've decrypted a significant portion of the data. It's not just about the bunker's location. It includes a detailed account of humanity's last stand and their efforts to preserve their legacy." Zor's eyes widened as he scanned the information on the screen. "So, what does it say?" Vega took a deep breath, his voice filled with awe. "According to the data, the humans didn't just go into stasis to survive. They had a plan to return and reclaim their place in the galaxy once the Council's empire fell. They knew the Council would eventually collapse, and they prepared for that moment." The realization hit Zor with a jolt. So, the humans were more advanced than the Council wanted anyone to know. They didn't just disappear. They were waiting for the right moment to rise again. Vega nodded, his expression determined. "Exactly. And if we can find the bunker and access the remaining data, we could uncover the full extent of their preparations and technology." The ship's alarm suddenly blared, interrupting their conversation. Vega's face turned pale as he glanced at the sensors. "We've got company. Someone's trying to track us." Zor's heart raced as he looked out the viewport. A group of Council ships appeared on the radar, their presence a stark reminder of the dangers they faced. "What do we do now?" Vega's fingers flew over the controls, his voice resolute. "We need to evade them. I'll jump to a new location and mask our signal. We can't afford to get caught now." The ship's engines roared as Vega initiated a jump to hyperspace. The stars outside blurred into streaks of light as they accelerated into the vast expanse of space. The immediate danger had passed, but the threat of being discovered remained ever present. As the ship emerged from hyperspace into a remote sector, Vega and Zor took a moment to regroup. The stars stretched out before them, a reminder of the vastness of their mission. They were no longer just uncovering ancient secrets. They were fighting for the survival of humanity and exposing the lies of the Council. "This is just the beginning," Vega said, his voice filled with determination. "We've made it this far, and we won't stop until we find the truth." Zor nodded, his resolve strengthened. "Agreed. We'll find that bunker and uncover everything the Council has tried so hard to hide." With their path set and their purpose clear, Vega and Zor prepared for the next leg of their journey. The hunt for humanity's hidden legacy had only just begun, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Forgotten Map. The ship drifted silently through the cold, dark expanse of space, its sleek form cutting through the void as Vega and Zor prepared for their next move. Vega was hunched over a workbench, focusing on a holographic display projected from the data chip they had recovered. The room was filled with the low hum of machinery and the occasional flicker of lights, casting an eerie glow on their determined faces. Zor paced back and forth, the tension of their situation etched in his features. "How long until we can pinpoint the bunker's location?" he asked, his voice tinged with impatience. Vega glanced up from his console, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. "I've managed to decrypt more of the data. It's complex, but I've found what looks like a partial map of the Arctic region. It's not complete, but it should give us a starting point." Zor's eyes widened with interest. "A map? That's exactly what we need. How accurate is it?" Vega shrugged, his fingers dancing over the controls. "It's difficult to say. The map is fragmented, and there are gaps in the data. But if we can cross-reference it with the information from the survey drone, we might be able to narrow down the search area." The room fell into a focused silence as Vega worked, his face illuminated by the shifting lights of the holographic display. Zor watched intently, his mind racing with the possibilities. They were on the brink of discovering something monumental, but the path to the truth was fraught with obstacles. After several hours of intense analysis, Vega finally straightened, a satisfied grin on his face. "I've managed to overlay the map data with the drone's sensor logs. We have a probable search area." He projected the map onto the wall, revealing a detailed but incomplete representation of the Arctic region. The map highlighted a few potential locations where the bunker might be buried beneath the ice. "Here," Vega pointed to a section of the map, "is where the data seems to be converging. It's not exact, but it's our best lead." Zor studied the map closely. "This is a good start, but we need to be prepared. The Arctic is vast, and we don't know what we might find." Vega nodded in agreement. "Agreed. We'll need to be thorough. I suggest we prepare for an extended search. I'll make sure the ship's equipment is ready for a deep ice scan." As Vega prepared the ship for their next phase, Zor took a moment to reflect on their situation. The mission had become more than just a quest for truth. It was a race against time and enemies who would stop at nothing to prevent them from uncovering the secrets buried in the Arctic. The next morning, the ship arrived at the edge of the Arctic ice cap, the ship's sensors scanning the icy terrain for any signs of the hidden bunker. The cold, harsh landscape stretched out before them, a stark reminder of the challenges they faced. "Ready for the scan?" Vega asked, his voice steady. Zor nodded, gripping the edge of his seat. "Let's do it." The ship's advanced scanning equipment began to hum, sending out waves of energy that penetrated the ice and rock beneath. The screens flickered as the data was processed, revealing detailed cross-sections of the ice cap. Hours passed as they meticulously analyzed the scan results, searching for anomalies or signs of the bunker's presence. The cold, unforgiving landscape seemed endless, and the weight of their mission bore heavily on them. Finally, Vega's face lit up with a mixture of relief and excitement. "I think we've found something. There's a large artificial structure buried beneath the ice, consistent with the bunker's description." Zor leaned over Vega's shoulder, peering at the display. "Are you sure? How deep is it?" Vega nodded, his eyes gleaming with determination. "It's buried several kilometers beneath the surface, but it matches the specifications we've been given. We need to prepare for a descent." The ship's equipment was adjusted to handle the extreme conditions of the Arctic ice. They loaded their gear and prepared for the descent, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The ship's hull groaned as it began its descent into the ice, the icy walls closing in around them. The descent was slow and treacherous, with the ship's powerful drills carving through the thick layers of ice. The temperature plummeted, and the cold seeped into every crevice of the ship. Zor and Vega worked in tense silence, their breath visible in the freezing air. After what felt like an eternity, the ship finally broke through to a large open chamber. The lights illuminated the vast expanse of the bunker, revealing an ancient facility frozen in time. The chamber was lined with strange technology and long-abandoned equipment, a silent testament to humanity's last stand. Zor and Vega stepped out of the ship, their boots crunching on the icy floor. The sight before them was awe-inspiring and eerie. The bunker's walls were adorned with unfamiliar symbols and advanced machinery, hinting at the incredible technology that had once been housed here. "This is it," Vega said, his voice filled with reverence. "We found humanity's hidden legacy." Zor nodded, his gaze sweeping over the chamber. "Now let's find out what they were trying to protect, and why the Council was so desperate to keep it hidden." The two scientists began their exploration of the bunker, carefully examining the technology and deciphering the symbols that adorned the walls. Each discovery added a piece to the puzzle, revealing the ingenuity and determination of humanity's last stand. As they delved deeper into the bunker, the sense of anticipation grew. They were on the brink of uncovering secrets that could change the course of history. The bunker's hidden legacy was within their reach, and they were determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The journey had only just begun, and the answers they sought lay buried beneath the ice, waiting to be revealed. Echoes of the past. The cold, stark silence of the bunker enveloped Vega and Zor as they made their way deeper into the ancient facility. The air was still, untouched by time, and the only sounds were the echoes of their footsteps and the hum of their equipment. The walls of the bunker were lined with mysterious artifacts and technology that seemed far advanced compared to what Vega and Zor had seen before. Vega's eyes were fixed on a large central console embedded in the wall. It was covered in dust, but the technology appeared to be intact. "This looks like the main control hub," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "If we can get this working, it might give us access to the bunker's records." Zor nodded, scanning the area for any signs of danger. "Be careful. We don't know what kind of security systems might still be active." Vega approached the console, brushing away the layers of dust. His fingers flew over the controls, attempting to activate the system. The console flickered to life with a soft hum, and a holographic display projected from the center. The display was filled with complex data and symbols, some of which Vega could not decipher immediately. "This is incredible," Vega muttered. "It's like we've stepped into another world. I'm seeing records and logs, but they're encrypted. It's going to take some time to decrypt." Zor kept watch, his eyes scanning the perimeter of the chamber. "While you work on that, I'll check out the other parts of the bunker. We need to understand what exactly was kept hidden here." As Vega worked on the decryption, Zor ventured into a nearby corridor. The walls were lined with storage containers and what looked like personal quarters. He carefully opened one of the containers, revealing a collection of old data pads and documents, preserved remarkably well despite the centuries of isolation. Zor began examining the documents, piecing together information about humanity's final stand. The documents revealed plans, blueprints, and personal messages from those who had once lived here. The stark reality of their situation became clear. Humanity had known their time was running out, and they had chosen to preserve their knowledge and legacy in this hidden chamber. One document caught Zor's eye, a detailed blueprint of a cryogenic chamber. The design was intricate, showcasing advanced technology for preserving human life in suspended animation. This was the technology that had kept the last of humanity hidden for millennia. Returning to Vega, Zor presented the blueprint. "I found something interesting. This looks like the design for the cryogenic chambers they used. If this bunker is still operational, there could be humans in stasis, waiting to be awakened." Vega's eyes widened as he looked over the blueprint. "This is huge. If there are still humans in stasis, we need to find them. But we also need to be cautious. The Council wouldn't have gone to such lengths to cover this up unless there were serious risks involved. With renewed urgency, Vega and Zor continued their search of the bunker. They found several more cryogenic chambers, all of them showing signs of wear, but still intact. The technology was impressive, and it was clear that humanity had been prepared for a long wait. As they moved deeper into the facility, they discovered a central chamber filled with control panels and readouts. Vega worked on accessing the central system, his face illuminated by the glow of the holographic interface. "It looks like the main control system can still function," Vega said, his voice filled with determination. "If we can get it up and running, we might be able to access detailed records and possibly wake the remaining humans." Zor stood by, ready to assist. "Let's get it operational. We need to understand what happened here and ensure that the last of humanity is safe." With Vega's expertise and Zor's assistance, they managed to get the central system online. The console flickered to life, revealing a series of detailed records and logs. The data was vast, covering centuries of information about the bunker's operations and the state of the cryogenic chambers. One record stood out, a message from the last human leader. The message was clear and emotional, revealing the true extent of humanity's struggle and their hope for the future. "Our fight was never just for survival," the message read. "It was for the hope that one day our descendants would rise again and reclaim their place among the stars. We chose to hide, to wait, and to preserve what we could. If you find this message, know that our spirit remains unbroken." As Vega and Zor read the message, they felt a profound sense of connection to the past. Humanity's resilience and determination were evident, and their mission had taken on a new significance. "We need to wake them up," Vega said, his voice resolute. "If humanity's legacy is to continue, we must ensure their survival and help them reclaim their place in the galaxy." Zor nodded in agreement. "Let's do it. We have the technology and the knowledge. Now we just need to make it a reality." With the central system online and the records in hand, Vega and Zor set about preparing the cryogenic chambers for activation. The process was complex, requiring precise calibration and careful handling. As they worked, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on them, but their resolve remained unshaken. As the final adjustments were made, the cryogenic chambers began to hum with life. The process of awakening the last of humanity had begun, and the hope for the future now rested on their shoulders. The bunker, once a silent testament to humanity's struggle, was now a beacon of hope. Vega and Zor knew that their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The secrets of the past had been uncovered, and the future was theirs to shape. The awakening. As the cryogenic chambers whirred to life, a soft, rhythmic pulse filled the chamber. The air grew heavy with anticipation as Vega and Zor monitored the awakening process. The advanced technology that had preserved the last of humanity was now being put to the ultimate test. Each chamber's control panel flickered with activity, displaying status updates and progress indicators. Vega glanced at Zor, his face a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "This is it. We're about to find out if they're still alive. If everything goes well, we'll be meeting the last of humanity." Zor nodded, his eyes focused on the displays. "We've come a long way to get here. Let's make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." The first chamber's lights flickered, and a series of mechanical sounds indicated that the stasis pod was opening. The lid slowly lifted, revealing a figure encased in cryogenic fluid. Vega approached the chamber cautiously, preparing for the possibility of awakening someone who had been in stasis for 500,000 years. The figure inside the chamber stirred, and then, with a sudden gasp, the person awoke. The individual, a woman with a strong and determined face, looked around in confusion. Vega stepped forward, offering a reassuring smile. "Welcome back," he said gently. "My name is Vega, and this is Zor. We're here to help you." The woman blinked, her eyes adjusting to the light. Where am I? How long have I been asleep? Zor stepped in, his voice calm and steady. You've been in stasis for 500,000 years. We found this bunker and activated the systems to awaken you and the others. The woman's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. 500,000 years. That's incredible. We were expecting to wake up far sooner. Vega nodded, his expression serious. The records we found suggest that there was a major conflict, and the bunker was intended as a last refuge. We're here to understand what happened and to help you and the others integrate back into the galaxy. As the first person was helped out of the chamber, the process continued with the remaining pods. Each awakening revealed more of humanity's last survivors, each with their own story, their own past. The process was delicate and time-consuming, but Vega and Zor were determined to see it through. Hours later, the central chamber was filled with the last of humanity, who gathered in a mix of awe and apprehension. Vega and Zor stood before them, ready to address the group and provide the information they needed. "Welcome," Vega began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You are the last of humanity, and we have spent years uncovering the truth about your history. We found records of your struggle and the reasons for your long sleep." One of the survivors, a tall man with a grizzled appearance, stepped forward. "What happened to our people? Why did they have to hide like this?" Zor took a deep breath, his gaze steady. The Council, the ruling powers of the galaxy, saw humanity as a threat. They believed your technology and resilience posed a danger to their dominance. They sought to erase you from history, but you were preserved here, hidden away. The survivors listened intently, absorbing the gravity of the situation. Vega continued, explaining their mission and the steps they had taken to uncover the truth. "Our goal is to help you reclaim your place among the stars. We need to understand more about the Council's actions and work together to ensure that this doesn't happen again." As the survivors absorbed the information, Vega and Zor worked to establish communication and cooperation. They began sharing their knowledge of the current state of the galaxy and the challenges they would face in re-establishing humanity's presence. The survivors were resilient and determined, their spirit unbroken despite the long years of isolation. They quickly adapted to the situation, eager to learn about the galaxy they had been away from for so long. One of the survivors, a young woman named Ilara, approached Vega with a thoughtful expression. "What's our next step? How do we go about reclaiming our place in the galaxy?" Vega smiled, recognizing the determination in her eyes. "Our next step is to understand the full extent of the Council's actions and gather support from other factions. We need to build alliances and strengthen our position. Your knowledge and skills will be crucial in this process." Zor nodded in agreement. "We'll need to start by establishing a base of operations, assessing our resources, and reaching out to potential allies. The galaxy has changed a lot in 500,000 years, but there are still those who value justice and freedom." The survivors began to organize and prepare for their new reality. They worked alongside Vega and Zor to set up communication channels, analyze the data from the bunker, and plan their next moves. The bunker, once a silent tomb, was now a bustling hub of activity and hope. As the days passed, Vega and Zor continued to support the survivors, guiding them through the complexities of the modern galaxy and helping them navigate the challenges ahead. The bond between the ancient humans and their newfound allies grew stronger, fueled by a shared goal and a determination to make a difference. The awakening of humanity marked the beginning of a new chapter. The survivors, armed with their knowledge and resilience, were ready to face the challenges of the galaxy and reclaim their place among the stars. Vega and Zor stood by their side, committed to ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure and that their future would be one of hope and possibility. Allies and enemies, the freshly awakened humans faced a galaxy that had evolved beyond their wildest imaginations. Vega and Zor worked tirelessly to help them adapt, explaining the complexities of interstellar politics and the shifting allegiances of the galaxy's various factions. The survivors were eager to engage with this new world, but they needed more than just knowledge. They required tangible support and allies. To this end, Vega and Zor set out to forge new alliances, beginning with key factions known for their interest in justice and freedom. The first target was the Alliance of Free Worlds, a coalition of planets with a strong reputation for resisting authoritarian control. Vega's contacts had hinted that the alliance might be sympathetic to humanity's plight, given their history of opposing oppressive regimes. The journey to the alliance's headquarters was fraught with challenges. The region was known for its unstable political climate and frequent skirmishes between rival factions. Despite the risks, Vega, Zor, and a small delegation of survivors made the trip aboard a sleek, well-armed transport ship. Upon arrival, they were greeted by a representative of the Alliance, a tall, charismatic woman named General Saria. Her presence commanded respect, and her reputation as a fierce defender of liberty preceded her. Vega and Zor presented their case, explaining the circumstances of humanity's revival and their desire for support against the Council's remnants. Allies and enemies. The freshly awakened humans faced a galaxy that had evolved beyond their wildest imaginations. Vega and Zor worked tirelessly to help them adapt, explaining the complexities of interstellar politics and the shifting allegiances of the galaxy's various factions. The survivors were eager to engage with this new world, but they needed more than just knowledge. They required tangible support and allies. To this end, Vega and Zor set out to forge new alliances, beginning with key factions known for their interest in justice and freedom. The first target was the Alliance of Free Worlds, a coalition of planets with a strong reputation for resisting authoritarian control. Vega's contacts had hinted that the alliance might be sympathetic to humanity's plight, given their history of opposing oppressive regimes. The journey to the alliance's headquarters was fraught with challenges. The region was known for its unstable political climate and frequent skirmishes between rival factions. Despite the risks, Vega, Zor, and a small delegation of survivors made the trip aboard a sleek, well-armed transport ship. Upon arrival, they were greeted by a representative of the Alliance, a tall, charismatic woman named General Saria. Her presence commanded respect, and her reputation as a fierce defender of liberty preceded her. Vega and Zor presented their case, explaining the circumstances of humanity's revival and their desire for support against the Council's remnants. General Saria listened intently, her eyes flickering with interest and skepticism. "Your story is compelling, but we need proof. If you expect us to rally behind you, we need to see evidence of your claims and understand your capabilities." Zor stepped forward, his tone measured and confident. "We can provide evidence of the Council's actions and our technological prowess. We have data from the bunker and the remains of ancient technology that should validate our claims." Saria agreed to a preliminary review of the evidence. The Alliance's experts examined the data, scrutinizing the information with a mixture of curiosity and caution. After several hours, they convened with Saria to discuss their findings. The verdict was cautiously optimistic. "The evidence is intriguing," Saria admitted. "It aligns with some of the reports we've received about the Council's covert operations. However, the situation is delicate. We need to ensure that supporting you does not jeopardize our own stability." Zor nodded, understanding the Alliance's position. "We're prepared to contribute whatever we can. Our goal is not just to seek allies, but to actively participate in the fight against oppressive regimes. We're committed to the principles of freedom and justice that you champion." With this commitment in mind, Saria agreed to offer limited support, including intelligence sharing and strategic guidance. The Alliance's support was a crucial first step, but Vega and Zor knew that they needed to expand their network of allies to increase their chances of success. The next target was the Interstellar Trade Federation, a powerful economic consortium with considerable influence. Vega and Zor hoped to secure their support by highlighting the potential economic benefits of restoring humanity's presence in the galaxy. The Federation was known for valuing pragmatic alliances that promised mutual benefit. Negotiations with the Trade Federation were more complex, involving lengthy discussions and careful diplomacy. Vega and Zor presented their case, emphasizing the economic opportunities that humanity's reintegration could offer, such as access to new markets and resources. The Federation's representatives were intrigued but cautious. They required detailed proposals and guarantees of stability before committing resources. Vega and Zor worked diligently to address their concerns, presenting a comprehensive plan for integrating humanity into the galaxy's economic framework. After several rounds of negotiation, the Trade Federation agreed to provide limited economic support and trade opportunities. This agreement was a significant win, as it provided much-needed resources and access to crucial trade routes. With alliances forming and support building, Vega and Zor returned to the bunker to focus on the next phase of their plan. They began preparing for the challenges ahead, including potential confrontations with the Council's remnants and other factions that might oppose humanity's return. However, their efforts did not go unnoticed. The Council's spies, ever vigilant, had been tracking their activities and growing increasingly concerned about the resurgence of humanity. Reports of these developments reached the Council's high command, prompting a meeting of their senior leaders. In the Council's inner chambers, the leaders discussed the emerging threat. "The resurgence of humanity is a serious concern," one leader stated. "We cannot allow them to disrupt the delicate balance we've maintained for so long." Another leader nodded in agreement. "We must take action to neutralize this threat before it gains too much momentum. Our resources are stretched thin, but we cannot afford to underestimate them." Plans were set in motion to counteract the growing movement of humanity. The Council began deploying operatives to infiltrate the various factions supporting the survivors, aiming to sow discord and undermine their efforts. As the threat of Council interference loomed, Vega, Zor, and their allies prepared for an escalating conflict. They knew that their struggle for survival and justice would be fraught with challenges, but their determination and the support of their newfound allies gave them hope. The path ahead was uncertain, and the stakes were high. Yet, the awakening of humanity had set in motion a series of events that would shape the future of the galaxy. The survivors, with the aid of their allies, were ready to confront the Council's remnants and reclaim their place among the stars. The final confrontation. The galaxy's tensions escalated as the Council's plans to undermine humanity's resurgence came into play. Vega, Zor, and their allies worked tirelessly to fortify their position and counter the Council's covert operations. The final phase of their strategy was approaching, and the stakes could not be higher. The survivors, now more integrated and organized, prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the Council. Their efforts had garnered significant support from the Alliance of Free Worlds and the Interstellar Trade Federation. However, the Council's interference and sabotage attempts had created an atmosphere of distrust and uncertainty. In a bid to strengthen their position, Vega and Zor focused on a critical mission, uncovering the full extent of the Council's remaining assets and weaknesses. They needed to locate and disable the key facilities that were instrumental in the Council's control and influence. Their efforts led them to a hidden Council research base, located in a remote sector of the galaxy. This base was rumored to house advanced technology and strategic plans that could tip the balance of power. With the help of their allies, Vega and Zor devised a daring plan to infiltrate the base and obtain vital information. The operation was meticulously planned, involving a combination of stealth, deception, and tactical precision. A team of elite operatives, including survivors with specialized skills, was assembled for the mission. They were equipped with advanced technology and intelligence gathered from their previous encounters. The infiltration began under the cover of darkness, with the team approaching the base undetected. They navigated through a series of security checkpoints and bypassed sophisticated defenses. As they breached the inner sanctum of the base, they discovered a treasure trove of information. Vega and Zor worked quickly to gather data on the Council's remaining operations and secret plans. The information revealed the Council's ongoing efforts to suppress dissent and maintain control through covert means. It also exposed vulnerabilities that could be exploited to their advantage. As the team prepared to exfiltrate, they encountered unexpected resistance. Council forces, alerted to their presence, launched a counterattack. A fierce battle ensued, with both sides engaged in intense combat. The team fought bravely, determined to complete their mission despite the overwhelming odds. The skirmish was grueling, but the team managed to secure the data and make their escape. They returned to their allies with critical intelligence that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. The information revealed key weaknesses in the Council's operations and provided a strategic advantage. With the data in hand, Vega and Zor coordinated a final decisive strike against the Council's forces. The operation involved a coordinated assault on multiple fronts, targeting key facilities and strategic assets. The goal was to cripple the Council's ability to maintain control and influence. The battle was fierce and relentless, with both sides pouring their resources into the conflict. Vega and Zor led their forces with determination and strategic acumen. The tide of battle shifted as the Council's forces struggled to adapt to the coordinated assault. As the final confrontation reached its climax, the Council's leadership was forced to retreat. The survivors and their allies emerged victorious, having dealt a significant blow to the Council's dominance. The galaxy was on the verge of a new era, with humanity poised to reclaim its place among the stars. In the aftermath of the battle, Vega, Zor, and the survivors began the process of rebuilding and forging a new future. The struggle had been long and arduous, but their determination and resilience had prevailed. The galaxy was now a more open and equitable place, with humanity's return marking the beginning of a new chapter. As they looked to the future, Vega and Zor knew that their journey was far from over. The challenges ahead would be formidable, but they were ready to face them with the same courage and resolve that had carried them through the darkest times. Humanity's resurgence had brought hope and possibility to the galaxy, and with the support of their allies, they were prepared to shape a future that honored their legacy and embraced the promise of a new era.